In this video, you learn about factoring quadratic expressions when a is equal to 1. First, let's review the steps to solve a quadratic expression by factoring. A quadratic expression is in the form 1x squared plus bx plus c. So first you need to determine two numbers that multiply to c and add to b. If c is positive, both numbers are positive or negative, meaning they're both positive or both negative. If c is negative, one number is positive and one number is negative. I mean, you could have a positive then a negative, or a negative then a positive. Then you're going to fill the terms into the factors, set both factors equal 0, and solve the two equations separately, resulting in two separate answers. In our first example, it says to solve the equation by factoring. So we want to find two numbers that multiply to c and add to b. Now, to help you figure this out, you can set up so it's going to be that you want them to multiply to give you 18 and add to 9. You can set up a t-chart. Now, since 18 is positive, they're going to both be positive numbers. So if I divide 18 by 1, I would get 1 and 18. And since we want it to be positive, I can either have positive 1 and positive 18, or negative 1, negative 18. If I divide 18 by 2, I would get 9. So I could have positive 2, positive 9, or negative 2, negative 9. If I divide 18 by 3, I would get 6. So I could have positive 3 and positive 6, or negative 3 and negative 6. 18 divided by 4 would give me a decimal. 18 divided by 5 would give me a decimal, and I'm back to the top. Now we want to figure out which pair of these numbers is going to add up to 9. So if I were to add 1 plus 18, I would get 19. Negative 1 plus negative 18 would give me negative 19. 2 plus 9 would give me 11. Negative 2 plus negative 9 would give me negative 11. 3 plus 6 would give me 9. And negative 3 plus negative 6 would give me negative 9. Now the only case that adds up to positive 9 is right here. So what this tells us is that since we know we're going to write it in the factors, so it's p with some number, p with some number, and set it equals 0, I can fill in plus 3 plus 6. Now from here I can write two equations. I could say p plus 3 equals 0 and p plus 6 equals 0. So for my first one, if I subtract 3 from both sides, I'll get p equals negative 3. And for this one, I can subtract 6 from both sides to get p equals negative 6. This means that our final answer is p equals negative 3 or negative 6. In our next example, now we want to have two numbers that multiply to give us negative 28 and add to positive 3. So if I set up my chart, I want them to multiply to negative 28 and add to positive 3. Now, since I want to multiply to a negative number, I'm going to have a positive and a negative number. So if I do 28 divided by 1, I would have 1. So I could have either 1 and negative 28 or negative 1 and positive 28. If I do 28 divided by 2, I would get 2 and negative 14 or negative 2 and positive 14. 28 doesn't divide by 3. If I do 28 divided by 4, I would have 7, so I could have 4 and negative 7 or negative 4 and positive 7. 28 doesn't divide by 5 and doesn't divide by 6. So these are all of our possibilities. Now if I were to add across, 1 plus negative 28 gives you negative 27. Negative 1 plus 28 gives you 27. 2 minus 14 is negative 12. Negative 2 plus 14 is positive 12. 4 minus 7 gives you negative 3, and negative 4 plus 7 gives you positive 3. Since this one down here is the only one that works, that means that these are our two factors that we're going to have to use. So I'm going to fill in to our form, so it's p and p is equals 0. So I can fill in minus 4 plus 7. Now I can write two equations. So p minus 4 is 0, and p plus 7 is 0. To solve both equations, I could say that I would add 4 to both sides to get p equals 4, or subtract 7 from both sides to get p equals negative 7. So your solution in this case is p equals 4 or negative 7. For our next example, now I want to find two numbers that multiply to negative 4 and add to negative 3. So if I set up my chart, two numbers that multiply to negative 4 and add to negative 3. Since it's a negative, I'm going to have one's positive, one's negative. So I'm going to have either positive 1 and negative 4, negative 1, positive 4. And if I do 4 divided by 2, I would have 2 and negative 2. And if I flip that, it stays the same. Now if I were to add straight across, 1 minus 4 would give me negative 3. Negative 1 plus 4 is 3. And 2 minus 2 would give me 0. So since this is the one that gives you negative 3, these are the numbers we're going to use. So I can set up so I know it's going to be a with some number, a with some number, that equals 0. From my table over here, I know it's going to be plus 1 and minus 4. So I can say a plus 1 equals 0 and a minus 4 equals 0. If I solve the one on the left, I can subtract 1 from both sides to get a equals negative 1 and add 4 to both sides to get a equals 4. So in this case, a equals negative 1 or 4. In our last example, we have a special case because it's k squared minus 16 and there's no middle term. However, I could rewrite this as k squared plus 0k minus 16 equals 0. Now I know that I want to have two numbers that multiply to negative 16 and add to 0. So I can set up my chart so they multiply to negative 16 and add to 0. And if I divide, since it's negative, it's going to be a positive and a negative. 16 divided by 1 would give you 16. So I have 1 and negative 16, or negative 1, positive 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. So I have 2 and negative 8, or negative 2 and 8. 16 divided by 3 is a decimal. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So I'd have 4 and negative 4. Now if I add 1 and negative 16 gives you negative 15. Negative 1 and 16 gives you 15. 2 minus 8 would give you negative 6. Negative 2 plus 8 would give you 6. And 4 minus 4 would give you 0. So that means that this one at the bottom is our solution. So this is the relationship that we are going to use. So if I fill in my factors, I know are k and k set equals 0. Now I can fill in plus 4 minus 4. So I can set k plus 4 equals 0 and k minus 4 equals 0. If I want to solve for k, I'd subtract 4 from both sides to get k equals negative 4 and add 4 to both sides to get k equals 4. So this means that our solution is k equals -4 or 4.